Your next EHS Manager interview? Yeah, it's not just a casual conversation. It's a high-stakes audit of your leadership. Get it wrong, and they'll view you as just another compliance cop. But get it right, you could secure a $120,000 to $180,000 offer because you've proven you can protect both their people and their profit. I'm going to walk you through the top 5 EHS Manager interview questions that trip up 70% of candidates and give you the exact framework to answer them. Welcome to this explainer. As a senior EHS manager who has sat on both sides of the interview table for over 15 years, I've seen firsthand exactly what separates the candidates who get the job from the ones who just get a polite rejection email. Okay, let's talk about that compensation range for a second. The financial stakes of mastering these specific interview questions are absolutely massive. Organizations are actively looking for safety leaders who can bridge the gap between regulatory requirements and operational excellence. If you can demonstrate that your safety strategies actually protect the bottom line, you're going to command premium compensation. Executives know that a strong EHS manager influences major purchasing decisions and mitigates 6- to 7-figure risks.
But here's something you really need to ask yourself. Are you falling into the classic trap of focusing only on compliance rather than business impact? Most candidates walk into an interview ready to just quote OSHA manuals. Look, that's a baseline, not a differentiator. If you only talk about writing tickets and handing out safety glasses, you're basically telling the hiring panel that you're a roadblock to production, not a partner.
Question 1. Hazard and risk assessment. Interviewers want to know your process. Do you sit in an office and guess, or do you get on the floor and engage?
There's a huge contrast here. The average candidate usually gives this really basic PPE first kind of answer. They'll say, "I saw a hazard, so I made everyone wear hard hats." True EHS leadership, on the other hand, is all about the hierarchy of controls and cross-functional collaboration. A real leader prioritizes elimination and engineering controls way before they ever default to personal protective equipment. To actually deliver that EHS leadership answer in a behavioral interview setting, you've got to use the STAR method. It's literally the ultimate framework. Situation: you set the scene. Task: what was your specific responsibility? Action: what exact steps did you take? And result: what was the measurable, data-driven outcome?
So a really strong sample answer sounds a bit like this. At my previous facility, we had a high rate of manual handling injuries. So I formed a cross-functional team with operations and engineering to conduct job hazard analyses. We prioritized the hierarchy of controls to engineer out risks by installing lift assists rather than just retraining people or defaulting to PPE. As a result, we reduced those specific injuries by 40% in 6 months. This works so well because it proves proactive risk management and actual frontline engagement.
But you've got to be aware of the immediate red flags here. You will absolutely be disqualified during a risk management interview if you fail to mention the hierarchy of controls, if you ignore stakeholder input and act like a lone wolf, or if you fail to use data to justify your actions.
Question 2. Strategic incident investigation. This shifts gears from proactive prevention to what happens when things actually go wrong on site. Imagine the interviewer leans in and asks, "Walk me through your process for investigating an incident." What they're really trying to uncover here is your analytical skill. They're actively looking for a leader who fixes broken systems, not just a manager who points fingers and punishes workers.
The crucial point here is making a critical mindset shift. An amateur just stops at the immediate cause. The employee slipped, so we wrote them up. A true professional digs way deeper for systemic root causes. Why did they slip? Was there a coolant leak? Okay, why was it leaking? Was preventive maintenance skipped because of budget cuts?
Your premium sample response needs to be highly methodical. Try something like, "First, I ensured the injured employee received care and I secured the scene to preserve evidence. Then, I led an investigation using a fishbone diagram for root cause analysis. We discovered a systemic training gap and an outdated standard operating procedure rather than just human error. We updated the SOP, retrained the shift, and saw 0 repeat incidents over the next year."
Question 3. Driving EHS regulatory compliance. This tests your ability to navigate complex legal frameworks, which is absolutely vital at the senior level.
You know, a lot of candidates treat compliance like it's just a reactive once-a-year checklist. But let's be real, auditors can smell a static spreadsheet from a mile away. Executives want rock-solid assurance that the company is legally protected through continuous auditing.
You need to contrast a reactive approach with building a truly integrated, continuous, and dynamic safety management system. So here's your high-level compliance leadership answer. I've managed complex, overlapping regulations by moving away from static spreadsheets. I integrated our OSHA process safety management and EPA risk management plan requirements directly into an active ISO 45001 safety management system framework. This proves you possess serious strategic governance skills. You aren't just memorizing rules, you're building a resilient organizational structure.
Question 4. Fostering true safety culture. This is the one that really separates the technical safety experts from true transformative EHS leaders.
How do you build a culture of safety in an organization that historically undervalued EHS? This is a tough behavioral question that directly tests your change management, your empathy, and your leadership skills. The panel knows that safety culture doesn't just magically change overnight, and relying solely on disciplinary actions will absolutely fail.
This is exactly where you have to bring in the human element. You'd say something like, in my last role, there was a severe us versus them mentality. So I championed psychological safety. I made sure workers felt secure reporting weak signals and near misses without any fear of retaliation or blame. I spent time out on the floor, earned executive buy-in using leading indicator data, and publicly rewarded employees who paused work to point out a hazard. Boom. That shows you're a real culture builder.
Question 5. Balancing production and safety. This is the ultimate test. Honestly, it's probably the most difficult operational conflict you're going to face.
The panel asks, how do you handle a situation where a key production goal conflicts with an EHS requirement? This frames the ultimate test of your ability to maintain your authority while simultaneously supporting business goals. If you just cave to production pressure, you fail. But if you're overly combative and shut down the plant without offering a collaborative solution, you also fail. You really need to illustrate that safety drives long-term profitability. A true EHS leader uses EHS KPIs to prove to executives that safety is a driver of operational resilience, definitely not a roadblock. Think about it. When a site is safe, there's less downtime, fewer equipment breakdowns, and way higher morale, which all naturally lead to increased production uptime. So, your answer has to perfectly balance authority with partnership. It sounds like this. During a critical run, an operator attempted to bypass a lockout/tagout procedure to save time. I immediately utilized my stop work authority because safety is non-negotiable. However, I didn't just walk away. I stayed on the floor, brought in the lead engineer, and we collaboratively developed a safe, optimized workaround that allowed production to resume within the hour. Let me tell you, this is exactly what hiring managers want to hear. Bonus tips and conclusion. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with some final, actionable advice before you step into that interview room. To secure those top-tier offers, you absolutely must elevate your perceived value. Always tie safety back to return on investment. Master your EHS KPIs. You need to know the exact difference between your leading and lagging indicators. And when it's your turn to ask questions, ask about their tech stack. Ask them, what AI camera analytics or safety management software are you currently using to identify risks? Finally, always be ready to build the executive business case for safety. Remember, the whole goal of this interview is to prove you are no longer just a compliance cop. You're a strategic business leader who protects the company's most valuable assets. Master these 5 frameworks, and you're going to walk out with the offer you deserve. So the only question left is, are you ready to stop policing the floor and start leading the boardroom? Like, share, and subscribe to HSE Study for more high-impact safety insights.